Before I jump into today's video, I just want to address my recent absence on my channel. Some of you may have noticed I've missed a few weeks on posting, and that's simply because I wanted to be very present for my last few weeks in San Diego and just be connected to my friends that I have here and the beautiful nature that I have here, and spend as much time out of the digital space and in the beautiful real world I had in front of me as possible. So if you are still here, thank you. And with that, I will jump into the topic of today because it is very much prevalent to recent events in my life, specifically yesterday. I did a release ceremony for a sentimental item that was very important to me, and it was very powerful, and that's the topic of today's video, is sentimental items. I have touched on this in a few other videos, but I haven't dedicated a specific video to this, and I know it is a big hot button is not the right word because that sounds controversial, but it is definitely a weighted topic within the minimalism space, and people as they are on their decluttering journey, one of the most difficult things to confront letting go of or even consider letting go of is sentimental items, especially when it's tied to a loved one that has passed. And in the case of what I went through yesterday, that is what it was. I've mentioned before, I had a sweet little black kitty cat named Gemma. She passed away from cancer very sadly over 2 years now. So it's 2.5 years, so not super recently, but as anyone who's had a special bond with a pet knows, it is such a deep level of unconditional love, and she taught me how to open my heart in such a beautiful way I really hadn't experienced before. Her loss really was like the loss of a child for me, and it really was just an incredibly painful event. And as I let go of this last item yesterday, I sobbed my eyes out. And one might think, if this animal was so dear and special to you, how could you possibly let go of something that sort of represents that bond, like in this physical object? So that's what I'm going to unpack today. What was the object? It was a little paw print on a piece of clay we did do assisted at-home transition for her because she was so very ill and suffering, but I'm very thankful I got to say goodbye and she got to be in her cozy space when we helped her transition to whatever is beyond this space. But I do feel very deeply that there is something. But when they do that service for you, they give you a little paw print of your animal that you can keep with you. And I've had it this whole time, and I didn't really have it on display in sort of a shrine anywhere. I don't even have pictures in my home, but I've kept it with me because it felt right to have it with me. And every once in a while I would pull it out and, just feel her little paw print. And it's, we're holding paws. Me and my sister say that instead of holding hands, we're holding paws. Sometimes I feel more cat than human, but I'm sure anyone, again, with an animal can relate to that special little bond. And while it absolutely would bring up some levels of joy and nostalgia and just love to connect with that little piece, it also was very painful too, because it was just this deep-seated reminder of she's not here. And this is the main reason I don't hang on to sentimental items, is because for me personally, not saying everyone needs to live in accordance with this, but something to consider if you are struggling with whether to keep sentimental items or not. For me personally, it is not necessarily a positive thing to have these things around. Not saying it's bad or negative, but it more keeps me at least tied to the past and tied to something that is gone, and clutching to have something that I cannot have in this space. And the more I would reach for it, it would make me feel very, very sad and feel that loss over and over again. And it's not to say that I want to forget her. I will never forget this special little animal. She's a part of me forever. But it's just a reminder that when someone transitions on they are not in their things. The things become just things. And not to say they lose all of their meaning, but no matter how hard you clutch onto that little paw print or that picture or that shirt that they wore or that lamp that was theirs or whatever physical object you have tied to that person, or maybe it's something they gave you, no matter how hard you hold it or hug it or clutch on to it, it's not going to bring that person or that animal or loved one back. And I'm not saying this to be sort of nihilistic or even sad, but just to more point to the beauty of and impermanence of life. If we all got to be vampires and just stick around and stay here forever and nothing ever changed, then that would take away the magnificence and the specialness of our time here. Nothing is permanent, and all of us, all life, whether it's an animal or a human or a plant, we will all transition out of this time and space at some point. And so that's what makes this time that we have to connect with each other and bond with animals or other humans so deeply special. But with at least my spiritual beliefs, when we do transition on, I equate it to a level of freedom and just release in a beautiful way that, of course, I can't conceptualize fully yet because I'm still alive. I'm still here. But for where I feel it spiritually, it feels like a release and a freedom. And to be stuck in physical objects here doesn't feel right to me, doesn't resonate to me. And I held on to the paw print for a couple years because it felt right. But yesterday I'd had my last day on the beach. This is, I'm just about to leave San Diego here. Literally, I'll probably publish this tomorrow on my very last day. But I had my last day on the beach and it was very special. And there's a little community shrine that is right near where we scattered her ashes. And I just felt very much compelled to release this final physical object of hers to this shrine and back to the earth, and just releasing this last physical attachment I have to her spirit so her spirit could be free, and also in a way so that I could be free. And this is the bigger thing I want to touch on, because as much as when I let it go, and then of course those thoughts of guilt come up, those thoughts of I almost felt like I was abandoning her even though she's not here anymore. I cried my eyes out. I questioned, is this right? What if I'm 70 years old and I want the paw print all of a sudden? And of course, those are normal feelings of loss and questioning that would come up. But deep down, I knew I was doing the right thing for myself spiritually. And I bawled my eyes out on the beach. And of course, people were looking at me, but I just did one of those shameless public cries because I just needed to. Because on the other side of that pain of letting go was a deeper level of freedom for me. Not like, ooh, woohoo, I decluttered something. Not like that at all. More just a final acceptance of death. We are all going to face so much death in our lives. We will lose our parents. We will lose siblings. We will lose family members. We will lose friends. We will lose maybe our children. Not everyone, sometimes children don't outlive their parents tragically. Death is all around us. And again, I'm not saying this to be negative. This is the reality that we sometimes like to skirt around and dance around because it is so hard to face. But when you get to a deeper level of acceptance, there's so much healing that happens. And by me just hanging on to that paw print, there was still this clutch in my heart of, I wish she was still here. And of course, we would all love our pets to be able to come back, but that's just not how life works. And by releasing it, it was just a deeper level of acceptance of she's not here, but it was so beautiful that she was. I was listening to a Lex Fridman, and you wouldn't equate Lex Fridman with a spiritual podcaster, but he actually has a lot of beautiful things to say. It was actually a podcast he was a guest on, someone else's, but he was talking about the death of his dog. And he said it's a very Russian thing, because he's Russian American, that to say there's so much beauty in loss, because when you are so heartbroken and your heart is bleeding and you're crying for your loved one who is no longer here, that's actually a very physical, sort of visceral display and manifestation of how much you loved that being, how much love was there. And that really resonated with me a lot as I let this thing go. And I had this release, even though she died not too recently. It's been 2.5 years ago. I still cried so much because there was so much love there. And there's beauty in that. There's beauty in just knowing, wow, what a gift to have had that relationship for the time that I had it. But now in releasing this last physical object, I am releasing my last clutch on trying to keep her here in this physical space that she's not in, and letting that go and accepting death, that I will have to accept many other times in my life as the years go by for me, as many years as I'm lucky to accumulate. And the next really powerful sort of part of that is when you do release, at least again, this is for me, releasing that last physical object, when you get past that level of, oh my God, this is the last thing I have to tether me to this being, and now the connection's gone forever. It actually was the opposite effect. Releasing that little physical thing after I cried a lot, I felt a deeper connection to her than ever. And it was a realization / reminder of these beings were not, our energy is ephemeral and eternal, and love is eternal, and we're never in these things. And with nothing to clutch onto, I actually could feel her just as much, if not more, within me, because love is not in a physical object. Love is an energetic exchange, and love is eternal. And depending on what your spiritual beliefs are, I'm not going to tell you what you should or should not think, but this is just my experience of, I think love is eternal, and our understanding of time is limited, and our understanding of dimensions and space is limited. And I can still feel her so much, and I feel like I let her be free and let a part of myself be free. And there's a deeper knowing and trust when you're not trying to hold on to someone's spirit in a physical object, but know that as long as you are alive and breathing, that love is in your heart and in your memories, but in the physical energy of your body, that connection can never be destroyed. So I hope that resonated with some of you. If some of you are struggling with letting go of sentimental items from a loved one that has passed, let me know if this landed at all in the comments. And of course, I'm not saying or forcing or advocating you to get rid of sentimental items that you really don't want to. If it still feels right in your heart and valuable and joyful and or loving and or just respectful to hang on to those items, that's totally okay. This is just my process with it. But let me know if this lands. And other than that, welcome back to the channel if anyone's here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.